Content on this production is for entertainment and informational purposes only. It is not medical advice, nor is it intended to substitute medical treatment or diagnosis. Seek medical help if you believe that you are suffering from a mental illness or are a threat to yourself or others. By using any or all of the information provided, you do so at your own risk. Any application of the material is at the listener's discretion and is his or her sole responsibility.
Everybody, Doc Brian here, and welcome to Doc Talks, where we talk about life's troubles, tribulations, and triumphs, and just life in general as we develop and mature and go through life together. And today I have with me Stewart Fullerton, who evidently was at one time a fellow Arkansan. So hopefully you'll be the first guest that doesn't make fun of my quote-unquote accent.
No, I'm jealous of your accent. I got rid of mine and I regret it.
Yeah. Well, I say, I don't have an accent. Y'all have an accent.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the way it works. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing now here in New York.
Yeah, so I moved to New York right after college in 2015, and I've worked pretty much every job in New York to support. I do stand-up comedy on the side, so that's like why I'm here. I definitely, as an Arkansan, find New York incredibly overwhelming, but I like it here a lot. So yeah, I've been here for about 5 years.
Right. So I told my Uber driver yesterday, which New York's the first place I've ever Ubered.
I know.
And because I have this anxiety about having to be in control in the car.
Oh,
and
okay.
so I'm just like, okay, crazy. And this girl is walking, there's bicycles just going everywhere and people walking.
Yeah.
And this girl like walks right out in front of us and the Uber just stops. And I was like, she should have stopped.
She should have stopped.
This isn't how this works. And I told the Uber driver, I was like, now I could not drive in this kind of traffic. And he was like, what traffic? It is literally dead here. And I'm going, then I definitely could not do this at all. So I 100% agree with you that it is a little busy.
It's very busy.
And makes me anxious. But I have noticed just, I'm staying down around Times Square, and I have noticed the plethora of different personalities and people.
Yes.
And is a melting pot.
Yeah.
Of all different culture and very diverse. So we can appreciate that about the city as opposed to where we grew up, where,
right.
It was suburban, if you will, Arkansas.
Yeah.
If that even makes sense, is there really a suburbia of Arkansas?
I mean, I technically grew up in the suburbs. Yeah. I think it's just lots of different suburbs.
Right.
Like no one actually lives like downtown.
Right. And if you do, it's because they have a job downtown.
Yes.
And they're very young and not married and don't have a family.
Or they're like trying to be trendy and like make it like, I don't know if you've heard this, but people are referring to like areas of Little Rock as like Soma and like East 6th. And I'm like, oh my God.
It is so ridiculous, which I live in North Little Rock.
Yeah.
And so, they have their different communities of like Levy and Argenta and Dogtown.
Argenta, I love Argenta.
All of that kind of stuff. So it's very different than it is here. Even being here the last couple of days have been quite the culture shock.
I know. Well, don't you think New York kind of gives you anxiety?
Yes,
like everyone's rushing around all the time. You're like, oh my gosh, even if I didn't have it before.
But then too, like, okay, something is 3 blocks away. I could walk that. But then you get an Uber and it takes 30 minutes to get 3 blocks. And I was like, could I have walked that in 30? Would I want to have walked that? So it is quite different. So you were raised in Little Rock, or was it Hot Springs area?
No, I was raised in West Little Rock, technically.
Okay.
I do love Hot Springs, though.
Okay. Yeah, Hot Springs is a very nostalgic type of...
It's my favorite place.
Something you would never see before.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing. So, someone the other day said, well, I've never been to Little Rock. And I said, well, don't really waste your time.
Yeah.
The Clinton
always say
Library is
that. I'm
there,
like,
so that's about the craziest thing that is
right.
that is there. And it's funny though, our listeners can Google the Clinton Library. It kind of looks like a trailer house.
It's that was said a ton when it first got built. Like
Mhm.
everyone's like, it looks like a trailer, and it does. And I was so
Does.
sad for Bill. I was like,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be like a bridge. Like he
Mhm.
said it was like a bridge,
Right.
but it looks like a full trailer
Right.
park.
Right. Absolutely. And it's just, well, we'll have that
We
conversation
could
a
talk
whole
about
other time.
all
We
day.
could sit here and talk about our inconsistencies in Arkansas
Yeah.
all day long. But you were raised in West Little Rock.
hmm
Tell me a little bit about growing up, what that was like.
Yeah, I grew up in a neighborhood in West Little Rock, super suburban, super white. Everyone, yeah, and both my parents were teachers, so I went to school until third grade at a school with like all my friends that lived in that neighborhood, and then my parents actually ended up switching me to a school downtown Little Rock, which was more like diverse. Yeah, I was super busy growing up. I danced a lot. I was like into dance and theater and stuff, so I was always doing that kind of stuff.
So I'm just interested, what school did you go
So
to
I went to
downtown?
Baker and then I switched to
Okay.
Gibbs.
Okay.
Do you know
Okay.
what Gibbs is?
Yes.
It's like
Yes.
super progressive and
Mhm.
like it was super diverse. We like took French and like had like science class in the garden. I'm pretty sure our teachers were smoking weed, but it was fine.
Yeah. So the move there, was that on purpose?
Honestly, I've tried to like make it dramatic and be like, why did we leave? But my
Mhm.
mom has said a million times, like, we just wanted you guys to have a more diverse schooling.
Okay. So as an adult, how do you interpret that?
I actually interpret it. So my mom was a teacher at Robinson, and my
Okay.
dad was the principal of Horace Mann
Okay.
before I went there. And I think that my parents actually were like the only liberals around now, like looking back.
Mhm.
And I
But
just
liberals were completely different then
totally
than
like they didn't
than
talk about it. Like
right.
it was
Right.
not allowed to be talked about. Like I
Right.
did not know my parents voted for Gore or whatever. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Right.
Like that kind of thing.
Or
So
Jim Guy Tucker.
or yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. Now, of course, my mom is like a raging liberal, like
Mhm.
all over social media, all that stuff. But yeah, honestly, I think it was a good call.
Mhm.
Yeah, and they were just trying to get me more into like the public school life because
Right.
my first school was just so like literally all white people.
Right.
And like
Right.
it wasn't a private school, but it seemed like a private school.
Yeah. Yeah, Baker it's still there, right?
I think so, yeah.
But it is kind of that suburban era,
Yeah.
Caucasian
Yes.
school.
Yeah.
And, I do think that there needs to be more inclusion and diversity even within our public schools in that
Yeah.
area. I don't know if you know this, but the state of Arkansas actually took over Little Rock School District. They
I do know
removed,
about this.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so now they have all of these things that if Little Rock wants to take it back over, they've got to do these things.
Yeah.
And one of those things is to make all of their schools a community center, where it's kind of
Oh.
the hub of all of the enterprise in that community. So there would be like community gardens, there would be
Yeah.
AA or NA there, there would be, after school programs, all of that kind of
Oh,
stuff.
wow.
So it would create more diversity simply because there are more things offered.
Right.
And so, and as you know, probably growing up in a public school where there were options, it was kind of a thing to get school choice to go to the school you wanted your kids to go to,
Right.
as
Yeah.
opposed to where I grew up in Magazine, Arkansas, where there were like 15 in my graduating class.
Right.
I started in kindergarten with the same people that I graduated with, and that you didn't go to another school. That wasn't even on our radar
Yeah.
as to how that took place. So, siblings,
Yes, I have a younger sister,
okay,
and she moved schools at the same time as me. Yeah, she's 3 years younger than me. She actually lives in London
oh wow,
now. Yeah, she's
Arkansas,
like this,
right? London,
right?
Arkansas.
No, London, England.
Excuse me.
But we actually drove through drove past London, Arkansas. She like took all these pictures of
Right.
of the exit sign.
Right. So if you don't know a lot about Arkansas, we have a London,
And a Paris.
we have a Paris, we have a England,
Yes.
we have a Palestine,
I do. Yes.
and a Damascus.
Mhm.
So there are all of these foreign names.
Yeah.
Someone once said that Arkansas is the state that borrowed everyone else's names.
Yeah.
And not very original in a lot of context. So growing up, when we get into kind of adolescent years, what are some things that really stick out as a child that, because a lot of times there are things that just really are in the forefront of our memory, and there are other things that's kind of repressed. And yeah, if we think about it, we can pull that forward. But when you think of your childhood, what are a couple of things that you recall happened that were either joyous times or tragic times?
Yeah. I guess so. Me and my mom have like a pretty bad relationship. I'm working on it, but she's like very weird. But when me and my sister were both redheads, and our childhood was very like picturesque. Like she like would dress us up in these costumes, and we'd go to like Y Mountain, take like a million photos. Like every year my mom would have like a calendar of like us like doing different things. But then like there was no like actual maternal
Mhm.
instinct from her. Like we
Right.
definitely it was pretty much just like me and my sister like playing Barbies all the time, and we read all the time. Like I would just be like in my room reading pretty much all the time. But yeah, my mom was very like hands-on and like super protective. Like when we were little, we were not allowed to eat any candy like at all. Like not like nothing.
How did you survive?
So I would go to friends' houses, and then like I have one of my friends' moms told me that one day she like walked into the kitchen, and I was like sitting on their counter in like the cutest little dress, and I just had like chocolate all over my face, and I had eaten like a whole thing of Oreos. So I would just like go to my friends' houses. We also weren't allowed to watch TV. And we
Mhm.
didn't even have a TV in the house.
That's interesting.
So I would just go to friends' houses, and literally I wouldn't be able to look away from the TV. I'd be like, this is amazing. So
Wow.
that's kind of like things that stick out from my childhood. My dad's parents lived in Harrison, Arkansas, and then my mom's side lived in Shreveport, Louisiana. But we would be with my mom's side a lot. Like my grandma would come into town almost every week to like do something and take care of us. And
Right. So that kind of goes with the old adage, a son is a son once in his life until he takes a wife.
Totally. And I think that side of our family is like kind of always resented us for like, they definitely like think, yeah, it's weird.
Because I know my in-laws live in Sallisaw,
Mhm.
Oklahoma. And of course, my parents live there in Booneville. But my parents being an hour closer, we go to Sallisaw way more than we
Yeah.
go to Booneville. And
Yeah. I mean, that's just kind of how it goes. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't just like, I mean, there's only a certain amount of holidays, you can't, it gets difficult.
it does. And even though, here in New York, 2 hours away seems like a
I
long way,
know.
but that's an afternoon trip kind of
Oh my gosh,
ordeal.
like a 5-hour drive to me is short because
Right.
of the South. But like here, people are like, if it's 2 hours, they're like,
Well, if it's over 3 hours, I'm flying. I just,
Yeah.
I'm not putting up with any of that. Talking about your mother was kind of detached.
yeah, very detached.
Did you realize that she was detached then growing up, or was it not until you were older that you
Yeah.
really began to see that?
I realized so my mom actually doesn't really have a relationship with her side of the family now.
Okay.
And I always really preferred my dad. Like me and my dad were like friends, and my mom, I was kind of like, why are you here?
Your dad, though, passed away.
Yes. So when I was 14, he died of a drug overdose.
Okay. So at 14, that was old enough to experience all the emotion
Yeah.
that comes with that. Were you aware of a drug issue?
So it kind of went on for like 3 years. I really still to this day don't know like exactly the extent of it. But 2 years before he died, he was in rehab, but we were told that it was like for his back.
Mm.
So we like literally went to visit him in drug rehab, and we thought it was like,
Which it could have been. I mean, he could have had a chronic back problem that
yeah, but
he
once you
was
met all the weirdos there, I was like,
gotcha.
okay, I should have known.
Right. Well, but he could be abusing pain medicine, so he was in a rehab.
So yeah, that's
Yeah.
actually how it started.
Gotcha.
Actually, is he had back problems, and then the pain
Right.
medication started getting out of hand, and then I guess he ended up getting addicted to cocaine, and then that's actually how he died.
Chronic pain is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, we need opioids to help with that pain. But it's just like anything else. After you begin using it, you just have to have more.
You just have to, yeah, you
And
can't stop.
and then you get so much that it still doesn't help, and then you're afraid that taking so much of this, Oxycontin
Yeah.
or hydrocodone or whatever it is, then it might kill you. And so you say, well, let's try meth or let's try cocaine because
I know.
I wouldn't have to take as much of that. I could microdose
Yeah.
and be okay. And then it's just a slippery slope
Yeah.
from there. And then at the end of the day, you still have the chronic pain.
I know.
You know?
It's life is so hard.
It is. It is. And there's not really a good solution,
I know.
when it comes to that. And it's so sad because most of our people, well, probably shouldn't say most, but some people who are users or addicts are that way because of a medical problem
Yeah.
that can't be appropriately handled.
Yeah.
And it's so sad that with all of the research and design that we have, that
Mhm.
we've not figured out a way
I know.
to make it better.
I know.
And then, even with chronic pain, you're more apt to depression because you're always
Yeah.
hurting. And so it just kind of is one into another. And before you know it, it's spiraled out of control.
Yeah.
So with your dad passing and you're saying that you preferred your dad more,
Yeah.
how did that kind of unravel everything?
Yeah, it was pretty bad. So my mom just like pretty much to this day refuses to talk about any of this. And yeah, me and my mom fought like from pretty much from like the day my dad died until I went to college, and even still to this day, me and my mom, well, but especially in high school, we just like screamed at each other all day, every day, pretty much.
Okay. So was it always screaming, or did it ever get physical, or?
Yeah, my mom was very physical.
Okay.
She would definitely hit us a lot, but I can't tell if that's Southern or like abuse.
Yeah, there is a fine line there
Yeah.
that is difficult. I remember several months ago I was in Walmart or Sam's. I guess that's insignificant, but this kid went up and hit his sister or something, and the mom instinctively slapped him and said, "We don't hit." And I'm going, but you just
literally
hit. How confusing is that to
I
this
know.
6 or 7-year-old?
Oh my gosh.
So
That's something my mom would do.
Yeah, yeah. And so, we kind of do these things in the South, particularly, almost involuntarily,
Yeah.
because that's just what we know. That's how we know to react.
Yeah.
So how did you fill that void with your father leaving?
With friends. Like
Okay.
I've always been the type of person that has like a million friends.
Okay.
I pretty much tried to never be at home.
Well, you couldn't watch TV or
I
eat
know, I had no
candy.
TV or candy or anything. Like, why would I want to be at home?
Yeah.
And then my mom's screaming at me all the time. So yeah, I pretty much, and then I was also like super busy. I was doing like theater, dance stuff. I was very involved in school a lot of the time. I think my dad died in the next year I started high school. So I was very involved in high school.
Okay.
And I never was someone that hated school. I was like thrilled. I'm not like, I wasn't good at school, but I was thrilled to be there.
Just from the outside looking in, it would seem like school would be a better place to be.
Yeah, 100%.
And you were getting attention, appropriate amounts of attention.
Oh yeah, I didn't say that, but yeah, I was definitely, attention helped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's actually a book by Dr. Susan Forward, I believe. Don't quote me on that. And the title of the book is Mothers Who Can't Love. And it's a healing guide for daughters and for sons, but it affects more daughter
Yeah.
relationships, of having mothers that have no maternal instinct.
Yeah, I definitely need to read something like
Yeah.
that.
It's a great book. I would recommend it to anyone who has that type of attachment issue
Yeah.
growing up. So you said your relationship with your mother now is even the same.
It's still bad, yeah. And I actually really try, and I've done a lot of like, well, I don't know how much I've actually tried. She's just she's gotten worse too with like older age, and she
Mhm.
lives alone, doesn't really leave her house, spends all of her time on like Facebook and like stuff. And I just think she's just stubborn. Like she has no reason to change or like
Mhm.
be nice or slightly normal. So she's just kind of gotten worse that way. My tactic kind of with her is I just kind of never, because I sense, and I really truly don't know, and I haven't looked into this, but I kind of sense like bipolar tendencies with her. Like
Mhm.
she'll either be in like the best mood ever, or it's like a full screaming like freak out. So I just try to keep it always even with her, and I never get too happy or like
Mhm.
too, it's always like a pendulum, if
So
that makes
when
sense.
you go and spend time with her or are around her for a period of time, do you kind of get anxiety and depression?
Yes. So I had not ever been spending time with her. Like as soon as I went to college, it was like holidays only, like Christmas, not even Thanksgiving, like Christmas only.
Mhm.
Maybe like one vacation every once in a while. That of course she like pays for. Like I wasn't doing it voluntarily. But in the pandemic, I just went home for 3 months and was with her. And yeah, it was bad.
So when you say bad, like give me an example of something that happened during that time.
Like one thing will go wrong and she'll just like scream for days. So like there was like a flat tire on her car, and so like that was just like 3 days of me kind of like hiding in my room.
So it's more like a 3-day rage
Yeah.
over any and everything that was caused or started or precipitated by a flat tire? Or was
Yes.
it 3 days of screaming about, "I don't know why the tire went flat. This was so inconvenient," you know?
Yeah, that
Okay.
more.
So it was more of focused on what precipitated the rage and the anger as opposed to
Yeah.
just anything made her angry.
It's kind of like both. I can't
Okay.
really describe it. Yeah, the tire was bad. My sister actually ended up coming home, and she did like a whole cleaning. She'll like clean. She's like a full hoarder, so she like will clean whenever someone comes. She'll like hide everything pretty
Mhm.
much, and that was like 3 days of like all anxiety, like all hands on deck, like her freaking out. And then if you're there, then she'll take it out on you. If you're not there, then it's almost worse after. So a lot of times I'd just like leave. I'd be like, I'm gonna get out of this situation.
Mhm.
Yeah, with her, I have to like bring a buffer too. Like I'll have to bring a friend a lot so that she doesn't. So she
Yeah,
acts
that
a little.
always helps.
Yeah, that's something
Um,
I've learned.
because she probably doesn't wanna project this anger and rage to someone else to
Oh yeah,
expose.
she's very like secretive. Like nothing. She doesn't want anyone. It's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy because it's like people find out she's crazy even more because
Mhm.
she's trying to like hide it. So you know what I
Right,
mean?
right. So you graduate from high school, you immediately go to college?
Yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
So you packed your stuff up the night before graduation and then
Yes.
I did the same thing. So
Yes. I was thrilled to go to
right.
college. Yeah.
And you went to University of Utah?
Yeah. That was really random, and I honestly I got a pretty decent scholarship there, and then also my dad's life insurance helped pay, so which is thank God I don't have student loans.
Right.
But yeah, my mom actually grew up part-time, like she grew up going to Utah a lot, and then I was just auditioning for schools for musical theater, and I really liked the snow and I had skied
Because we
before.
never get snow in Arkansas.
Right, exactly, and I thought of course now I'm like, I hate the cold. I'd
Mhm.
rather be in Arkansas always. But yeah, I just ended up going there. It was looking back, I'm like, that was so random that I went
But probably
there,
one of the
but
best things you've ever done.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I loved college.
So as a musical theater major, what actually does that entail?
Yeah, so I pretty much was in like dance, singing, and like acting classes all through college. I took very basic like prerequisites. Like I took like one Spanish class and then like one English class, but it was pretty much all performing classes. I really enjoyed it. I kind of always knew I didn't fully want to do musical theater. I kind of was just like always funny and it just was like where my life led.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I liked it in college.
But once again, and I find myself repeating this every podcast, but it's just so important, is that before you go to college, you really need to decide what your end game is going to be with that degree.
Yes.
And I harp on this all the time that college is not for everybody.
Yeah, I agree.
And one of the questions that I'm asked a lot is getting a bachelor's of psychology worth it?
Mhm.
And my answer is it depends on what you're wanting to do.
Yeah.
Well, I want to be a therapist. Okay, bachelor's of psychology is good, but no, that's not going to make you a therapist. You're going to have to go into a master's program.
Yes.
Because with a bachelor's of psychology, you could be a bartender or a waiter or
Yeah,
a secretary. I mean, the HR, that kind of thing.
totally.
And so people kind of get skewed about what that degree process is. And they're like, well, I love psychology. Well, good for
Yeah.
you, good for you. And it seems more like this generation is more interested in psychology than
Yeah.
previous.
I mean, you're probably going to kill me for saying this, but it's like the amount of Real Housewives I watch, I'm like, I'm watching that for the psychology. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, I'm
yeah.
watching that being like, why are you the way you are?
Hmm.
And we love reality TV, I think,
Hmm.
for that reason.
Yeah.
We read like horoscope stuff just to be like, this is what I do.
Well, I say we, I'm not a part of that younger generation, but they feed off of drama.
Yes,
And I at my age, I don't want drama.
I
I don't,
know.
I hear enough as it is. I don't need all of that in my life. So
Yeah.
so as graduating then with I assume you completed your degree.
hmm
Where did you go from there? How did you get to New York?
So I just pretty much was like, I'm moving to New York after college. And musical theater is the same with what you were talking about. Like, I would have had to put in tons more work, like, definitely maybe go to grad school if I
Hmm.
really wanted to be even the slightest
Right.
something. But a few of my friends who still do musical theater to this day were all going to move to New York. And I was like, I'm just going to move to New York immediately after college and not even let myself question it. I'm just going to go. So then I did. And been here ever since.
And how long have you been here in New York?
5 years.
5 years.
hmm
So how have you grown in your art being here in New York?
Yeah, I just kind of do it all the time. And well, I really enjoy comedy because you are your own boss pretty much.
Mhm.
So like I can if I do badly or if I miss a day, then I know it's on me to get back, where I feel like something like theater is just so you have no control. Like if you're really someone that like grew up doing musical theater, moves to New York, you might perform once a year. And
Right.
that's either something you paid to do or an audition where you probably didn't get called back. So I love comedy because I can actually go out every single night if I want to. There's always something happening, especially in a city like New York.
Mhm.
And yeah,
As a comedian here, that probably isn't your main source of income.
no. So I work as an executive assistant during the day at a
Okay.
hedge fund,
Okay.
and I
So,
hate it.
but it sustains your ability to
Yeah.
experience the
Yes.
comedic arts. Um, did I just say comediate?
Comedic
Is that a
arts.
word?
Comediate arts.
Comediate? It's almost like
That
idiot.
psychology degree.
Idiot. We make up words all the time. It's okay. Which it kind of makes sense, I guess. Comedic arts.
Comedic
Yeah.
arts.
I said
Yes.
comedic. It's the Arkansas thing.
Yeah.
That's what we
It's,
say in
that's
Arkansas.
exactly.
That's how we say it down there.
That's how y'all say it.
Yes. So you hate your day job,
Mm-hmm.
but you realize that it has to be done.
Yes. I mean, I wish I had support like financially otherwise, and then I wouldn't have to do that. And I would definitely make my life better. But I know that I just have to work, get health insurance and work a day job for as long as possible until I really can't do it
Yeah.
anymore.
So what is your dream? What is your go-to that this is what I really want to accomplish?
I really want to be success. I really want to be like my comedy is my full-time job, not specifically like performing stand-up. Like it could be acting in some way. It could be like hosting, podcasting, any of that. I just would like that to be my full-time job.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you started to say successful, and a lot of people say, I want to be successful, but what really is successful?
I don't really know, but I decided that it means that I am what I want to do, which is comedy, storytelling, theater, acting in some form. That is my primary source of income, I think.
Okay. So your dream job, if you could do whatever it is right now in whatever show or series or theater production, I said right now I could make anything that you wanted to do, one thing happen, what would that one thing be?
I guess I would definitely have like a talk show.
Okay. And what would you talk about?
I would talk about like pop culture, news, funny things, talk about my life, and interview others, probably.
Why a talk show?
I just see myself doing that.
Okay.
That's what I like see myself doing.
Okay. So you be the new Sally Jesse Raphael.
Yes.
Yeah. For those of you younger listeners who do not know who that is, feel free to Google her.
I actually don't know who it is.
You
but
don't?
No.
Oh my goodness. Oh, never mind. This
Google.
podcast is over.
No.
It is over. We can't do this. Oh man. I guarantee if you Googled her and you saw her,
yeah.
you would know.
I will know. Okay.
So you could be the next Ellen.
Yes.
So that kind of is a whole enterprise.
Yes, that's being Ellen would be my dream job, but I'd be nice.
Okay, because she always says at the end of the show, "Be nice," but she's not always the nicest person, especially in her show, The Game of Games.
Yes.
Yeah, she's got a little narcissistic
I
tendency
know.
going on there. At this current moment, do you have a plan to get to where you want to be?
No, I guess I just constantly do comedy and work my day job. Hopefully that then I start to get noticed. I get a manager or an agent. Then I work with them on certain things. I get to be like a touring comedian. And then I have people that want to come see me. And then I would get a talk show.
Right.
I guess that's the plan.
So in the shows that you have done thus far, what is the one show that really kind of was the pinnacle so far of your career as a comedian?
Well, I actually went to Arkansas and did
Of all places.
Of all places. Can you imagine?
Because nothing's funny down there.
I know. Well, people don't realize how funny they are down there. I will be
100%.
cracking up and people are like, what?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's just exactly the way you said that.
Yeah.
What? Yeah.
So I actually went to Arkansas and they have like an Arkansansan Arts Festival. I don't know if you've heard of it, but I pretty much pitched myself to them and did a 45-minute stand-up show that ended up selling out, and it was amazing. And that was like the best show ever.
Okay. So what would then be the lowest point in your adult life / career?
Probably yesterday doing an open mic in the rain.
That would be difficult, I would say.
Yeah. 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Wow.
Of comedy in the rain.
I don't think I can say a sentence in 3 minutes.
I know.
Let alone tell a good story.
Yeah.
that takes place there. So I know I've interviewed other comedians that the pandemic really has put a burden on performers and entertainers here. You said that you went and spent 3 months in Arkansas. Not to be cliche, but how did that make you feel
So I actually loved it. So I actually went, I had 2 events technically. So I had a bachelorette party and then in June and then a wedding in August. And I was supposed to leave after the bachelorette party, but then I was like, you know what? I'm like having fun here. I'm not going to leave yet. Week after week after week, I just kept putting it off. I had a blast there. I love driving. You can't drive here. Everything's just so hard in New York, and in Arkansas it's so easy. It's like
Mhm.
I don't have a washer dryer here. I have to like go walk my clothes to every single thing like takes so long. There's also I found when I'm in New York, I have so much pressure. I put so much pressure on myself to like be successful that I can't really take nights off without either being upset with myself the next day or be taking it or being angry, with
Mhm.
like, oh, I shouldn't have gone out and gotten drinks with those people. Like that didn't further my career at all. Whereas in Arkansas, it's like, there's no career here. It's just me having a blast. I can
Yeah.
go to dinner all the time. I can go over to my friend's house and watch TV. I can I work out in the morning and it's warm all the time. And yeah, so
So I'm going to guess you're probably 26, 27.
I'm 27. Yeah.
Okay. So I didn't get married until I was 27. But I recall that period of time between like 23, 26, that
Yes.
all of my friends disappeared, got married, had
Yes.
children, and then I was just, out there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so did you experience that as well?
I did, but I was always in New York when my friends are kind of getting married like now. Like in the next 2 years, I'm about to have like 10 weddings
Oh, wow.
coming up. But I was in New York and I kind of always thought I didn't really care. Do you know what I mean? Like
Right.
it wasn't, like I kind of left my friends. I was like, I'm in New York and you figure it out with your husband in Arkansas.
Right.
You
Well,
know?
I mean, being still then, if you were to stay at home, and then not have those relationships all of a sudden, that could put a great damper.
That would have been bad. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, especially people who are pursuing a career, get into that type of situation where all of a sudden their friends are gone because now they're married and
Yeah.
their wife or their husband's opinion matters way more than yours
Yeah,
or what you
totally.
should want to do. Or that friend feels guilty that they shouldn't leave their husband or their wife at home
Yeah.
while, you go do whatever it is that you want to do. So I suppose you didn't know anybody in New York when you came back or when you came
When
here
I
from
came
Utah.
here, no, not really. Random, like a few random people from like college or a friend of a friend from home or
Right.
something.
So how did that adjust?
So that's never been unfortunately, I could make friends with that lamp. Like I have too many friends. Like
Let me write that down so we can discuss
I
that later.
Yeah, so maybe I have what's it called when you talk to voices in your head? No, I'm kidding. I have actually never had a problem making friends. I've always had too many friends. It almost stresses me out
Right.
because I have like
So are you the friend though that everybody comes to when there's a problem?
yes, but not like full trust in me. Like they're not like calling me to get them out of jail, but
Right.
they're like I just took this huge test. Like who wants to go get a drink? It's gonna be Stewart.
Right.
You know
Right.
what I mean?
Okay.
But no one would trust me with like their life or anything.
Why would you say that? What gives you that inflection or thought that no one would trust you with their
I
life?
think that people think I'm a little nutty, to be honest with you. I'm just a little I'm kind of like spontaneous. I kind of do what I want. I don't really like follow a set of like rules or like morals technically. Yeah.
So, and that with rules and morals kind of brings me back to the thought of growing up in a very strict household. And
Right.
I'm going to say no TV, no candy is very strict.
That's very strict,
Very
right?
strict.
Yeah.
Especially in that time of growing up in the 90s
Yeah.
was
When it was just like put cartoons
right.
on and yeah.
Absolutely. And even, with the no candy, that is more prevalent now,
Mhm.
as opposed to then, but now we have more people who are
Yeah, people.
vegan
Mhm.
which they've always been there. They just weren't as apt to tell you
Yeah.
because, they were weird if they were that way. So was there any religious affiliation within that strict
Yes.
confines?
My mom actually has never missed a Sunday of church ever, like, even never. We went to church all the time. I went to church definitely every Sunday, and then there would be, like, camps in the summer or whatever, and then when I got to high school, actually, I was at church, like, 5 days a week. Like, we
Mhm.
would have, like, Bible study one day, like, girls group one day, Wednesday was one thing, and then
Like, if
yeah.
the doors were open and the cleaning lady was there, you were in the
For
church.
sure, for
Yeah.
sure. And I actually really I'm not a religious person, but I actually loved going to church all the time. It was the same as, like, high school to me. It was, like,
Mhm.
me cracking jokes in the corner and, like, getting attention, a way to get attention.
But in that, did you find that your mother was more aggressive in church if you were cracking jokes or
So she was never there. So we went to
gotcha.
different churches.
So
Yeah.
that's the only reason you you
Yeah.
went there
Yeah.
was an escape.
Yeah.
So what do you think if you just kind of had to reflect back, why do you think that your parents were as strict as they were?
I really don't know. I don't think my dad was strict. I think he was just kind of doing whatever my mom said. I think my mom is very, like, I think my mom must have, and again, we don't really talk about it. I think she must have gone through a pretty rough childhood. I know she, like, moved around a lot. Her whole family works in, like, rodeo and, like, horses and stuff. So I think she probably had a really unstable childhood, really cared about appearances, and wanted us to just be, like, perfect kids. I also think she wanted kids, but she didn't want anything older than, like, 5.
She wanted children, but she didn't want children.
Yes, and even to this day, she's, like, obsessed with, like, she'll, like, order storybooks, and when me and my sister were in town recently, she, like, wanted to read us a storybook, and I was like, "This is so creepy, like, we are adults," but she, like, can't,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, she literally made us, and I was just, like, laughing the whole time and, like, filming her doing it,
Mhm.
but
So, but do you think that may be part of the teacher? Was she an elementary
she
school
was, yeah,
teacher?
she was actually a middle school teacher, but she definitely wished she was an elementary school teacher. Yeah, I really don't know why she was so strict. I think
So, how do you think that affected your adult life? Do you feel like you rebelled, but then you were okay with it? Or was there ever a point where there was guilt and shame of, I probably shouldn't do this, but it feels so good? And then it
yeah,
kind of gotten to a point of where you just didn't care anymore.
yeah, I feel like I rebel by, like, continuing to do stand up, which she definitely doesn't approve of, and being kind of crazy and, like, telling funny stories all the time. I feel like I rebel in that way. I don't really know. What was the question again?
Ha did you get to a point of where there were guilt and shame within your rebellion?
Oh, yeah, not really. I always, like, kinda love the attention, I guess,
Mhm,
is the
okay.
truth of it all.
So, let's talk about relationships outside of your family, boyfriends.
Yes.
What kind of troubles did you have there? Because I would only assume that there was this difference of perspective of how
Yes.
things should be,
100%. I actually have a boyfriend now. I've been with him for 3 years, and we live together. Before
which your
that,
mom probably despises.
so actually she doesn't mind. She probably cares that we live together. Like, when we go to Arkansas, we can't sleep in the same room.
But is it that she doesn't mind because she's not having to try to support you in any way because it's easier?
Well,
Or
I'm like, "If you're gonna pay my rent, then I won't live with a boyfriend," but you're not, so
right, right. So,
she really likes him, though.
okay. So tell me about that relationship, as far as how did you kind of work to level that out and find some normalcy?
It's always a struggle. I feel like, well, because he grew up with, like, 2, like, happily married parents. I mean, like, his dad's kind of an alcoholic, so he kind of gets it, but Definitely when I think meeting my family, he was like, "Oh my God, this is nuts."
Mm.
Um, yeah, I mean, it's a daily struggle. I'm always like, I feel like I mean, my parents were never happy. So I feel like I always am like trying to be, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I'm always worried that I'm going to turn into my mom and be like nagging and
Mhm.
stuff like that.
Well, I mean, that would be a reasonable fear,
Yeah.
but at this point in your life, it's probably not going to happen.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, not
That's good.
unless something major just
Yeah.
takes place. But you are redheaded, so,
You never know.
anything could happen,
You
right?
never know.
Anything could happen. Did you know I was reading this study that, when people who have red hair go under anesthesia for surgery, that they have to have more?
They need more. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
It's supposed to also mean that I have like a high pain tolerance, but I
Yes.
actually don't. I have a
Yeah,
really low pain tolerance.
yeah.
So I don't know.
Eh, who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows? If you have to look at your life as a whole, what would you say the biggest failure or disappointment outside of your father's death has happened to you?
Does it count if I'm like, oh, well, I'm not really successful yet and I wanted to be by now?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess I would say that.
Okay, but then asking a question earlier, you don't really have a plan
You don't think you
on
think,
how to get there.
do you think I need to have a bigger plan?
Absolutely. A
Wow.
goal without a plan is just a dream, and dreams rarely come true.
Wow. So I need to be like
Proactive.
more like strategic. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
100%. Yeah. And that's kind of the thing. Change cannot happen until a change occurs.
Mm-hmm.
We can make plans all the time, but if we don't initiate that plan, then that goal is worthless.
Yeah.
There's a quote, and I'm probably going to butcher this, but it says that the nail is only as strong as the wood that it's nailed
Yeah.
into. So our goals are only as solid as the plan is that we put it
Yeah.
into. So if your plans are, very loose, then there's nothing solid. And
Yeah.
so that puts us then in this, it's almost that we do this to protect ourselves though,
Yeah.
because if we have a plan, then we see our failure.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what actually should happen is that failure should drive us to do it better.
Right.
There's an acronym for FAIL, first attempt in learning.
Yeah.
And so when we look at a failure, a lot of times we say, well, this was just a horrible experience. And I've lost and I've done this and I've done that. And I mainly hear this in marriage. I've been married for 15 years and we're getting a divorce. And this was just, he took 15 years of my life
Yeah.
away from me. No, he didn't.
Yeah.
You learned something in those 15 years. You are bringing something into a
Yeah.
new relationship that you have earned,
Yeah.
a badge of honor, if you will, to know what to expect, what not to expect, but also know what not to put up with
Mm-hmm.
to get it to that point. And I think a lot of people look at failure as being final, that, we can't do it. And so many people are so scared to have a plan simply because they will have to visualize their failure.
Yeah.
But there's also this thought, and I would say it was a fact, but there's really no facts when it comes to psychology. But we have found that people who have a plan B always fail at plan A
Yeah.
because they always know they have something to fall back on. And so they're preeminently assuming they're going to fail. And so we got to be careful to not fall into that trap either, to make sure that our plans are strictly where they're supposed to be. What would you tell someone who maybe in college right now that has an interest in performing arts, musical theater? What would your word of advice to them or even to yourself have been while you were in university?
I would definitely say don't get student loans because those can ruin your life. And then I would say I don't really know. I guess I would say I don't think you have to go to college. I think just like moving to New York and just putting your nose to the grindstone is a better plan.
Yeah.
And quit if you don't really, really enjoy it, because it's every day is like a struggle.
Yeah, and so many times it seems like we settle.
Yeah.
That this is kind of what I want to do, but not really. But and it's almost like we devalue
Yeah.
what we really want to be, and we sit and think, I just can never achieve that. A friend of mine who she says I'm like a son to her. The feelings aren't always reciprocal, but I have my mom and I love my mother. She said this morning, she sent me a text and she said, "Did you ever think growing up in small town Arkansas that you would be in New York City recording your very own podcast?" And I was like, absolutely not.
No way.
And I'm still not sure that it's actually happening. Like, this
Yeah.
could all be a big dream. I
Yeah.
might wake up and this just all be crazy. But I have found throughout the years that our idea of what is going to make us happy isn't what ultimately makes
Yeah.
us happy. And we've got to be willing to accept those changes and shifts
Yeah.
in what we enjoy and what we do. So this is going to then lead into Doc Talks DX, which we have on, I always say it wrong, Patreon.
Patreon.
Yes. So being from Arkansas, I want to say Patron,
Patron.
which is not what
Which
that
is
is.
tequila.
Yes. So follow us over there to hear the continuation of this story, where we're going to talk about Stewart's problems.
I can't wait.
We're going to talk about Stewart's problems, and just a little teaser, she's not the problem. So follow us over there. Where can people find you, Stewart?
You can follow me on Instagram. I'm at Stewart and Chill. I actually have a podcast of my own. It's called Staying Humble with Stu. It's really fun. We talk like pop culture and how celebrities need to stay humble. And on Twitter, I am also Stewart and Chill.
All right. So you can find her there. We will make sure to put all of her information in the description of this podcast. Of course, I'm Doc Brian. You can find me at thedocbrian.com. We're here on the Be Frank Network. Make sure to follow us into Doc Talks DX, and we appreciate you doing that. Stuart, once again, thank you for being here with us today, and looking forward to get into this nitty-gritty of what's going on in your life.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. All right. Thank you, guys. Goodbye.